So, with the brand new release of Twisters, we have this year's best and pretty much only disaster film. And because of that, I wanted to make a video listing and ranking out some of my favorite disaster films of all time. So I've got 9 movies here today, in no particular order, except for the last one that I'm going to talk about is my favorite and what I think is the best disaster movie of all time. Now, what is a disaster movie before I start talking about this? How do we classify, and how am I personally classifying a disaster film? Well, it's pretty much any movie in which humans or people, the main characters of the film, are facing some kind of force that I deem to be more of a natural, not good, not evil force, but just a force that is out to destroy them, aka a disaster. But I am being a little bit laxed on my definition. I'm just kind of going based off the feeling, the emotions that you typically get from these types of movies, and maybe you'll look at one of these movies and say that's not a disaster movie. Well, screw you, I don't care. Another definition for a disaster movie might just simply be a Roland Emmerich movie. There's a few of them on this list. Not Moonfall. I didn't put Moonfall on here, although I love Moonfall. It's like one of my favorite disaster movies, but I will lose credibility if I put it on this list. So let's get right into it. Before I start, list your favorite disaster movies down below, and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. I post every day, videos just like this, sometimes even better, sometimes a little worse. But every day I post, so stay around, please. I need you. I need you guys. I need it! First up is Contagion. This is a very, very interesting movie to talk about now, after 2020, after COVID. A very different kind of a disaster movie, so to say. Very different from any of the other movies I'm going to talk about on this list, because Contagion is about a global pandemic. This film was way ahead of its time. It depicts what the world would actually look like if a major global pandemic took place, if a major disease that was killing a lot of humanity actually occurred. Now, this film is obviously very spooky in retrospect, because there's a lot about this movie that is somewhat accurate to the actual world global pandemic that we experience. A lot of it that's not. Of course, the disease in this movie that we see is a lot more deadly than the COVID, than COVID actually was for us. This disease was killing everybody, whereas COVID, let's be honest,
start working on not touching your face.
Was bad, but it wasn't what this film, kind of depicted. This film depicted, if you get it, 50-50, you're fucked. Which made it really terrifying, but we get to see how they develop a vaccine and how society kind of treats it and treats each other, and it really is an apocalyptic event in this movie. This film has an incredible cast with people like Matt Damon, Kate Winslet, Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow. This movie just has an insane cast. Lawrence Fishburne's in here. I love this film. I think it is really dark and really freaky and was sort of a warning to all of us that something like this could happen in real life. And then it did. So let's hope some of these other films I'm going to talk about are also not predicting things we're going to experience in the future. Next up is Knowing. This is a film that a lot of people don't like, but I am a big fan of, and I want to talk about it here. Knowing is a movie starring Nick Cage about this kind of end-of-the-world event that's about to happen to Earth, and this mysterious kind of conspiracy that's going on around that. Now, I don't want to spoil too much about this movie, because I actually think the mystery of seeing everything unfold and the mystery of getting to the bottom of some of these kind of plot points is really interesting, and it's what makes this movie very, very engaging. But this movie scared the shit out of me as a kid. It was one of my favorite disaster films when I was a youngling. I saw this movie so many times, but it always freaked me out. It always made me think, and I think it's a film that not enough people talk about, especially in the world of Nick Cage films, and I think more people should give this one a shot, so that's why I'm talking about it. This is your sign to go watch Knowing. And if you hate it, I'm sorry. I haven't seen it in a while. I'm going based off my memory here. Next is Independence Day, and I know what you're thinking. This is not a disaster movie. This is an alien movie. An alien invasion movie, and I get that. I completely get that, but this is a absolute classic alien invasion movie that I depict to be a disaster film. I was deciding whether I wanted to put this one here or War of the Worlds, another alien sort of disaster film. And although I love War of the Worlds, I think it is absolutely incredible, I still think this one is a little bit better when it comes to the alien stuff. This film kind of captures the heart and soul of what was kind of that 90s disaster movie feel that we used to get a lot of. It has that kind of, that large cast of characters that all work well with each other. These people that are all coming from different works of life, like a president, and then you just have other random people that are, joined along in this ride. You get really motivational moments of humanity joining together.
We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Tell me that didn't have this kind of energy. It definitely did. Shut up, all of you that are getting mad in the comment sections already. How dare you? Kiss my ass, all right? Kiss my ass. It was badass. That and this. It's all badass. We love America. America, baby. Unless you are, like, foreign viewers of mine. We love your countries, too. Maybe. I don't know. But this is a badass movie. Will Smith is so good in it. The action is great. The actual aliens, like, are kind of creepy and feel like a threat. And this is just one of the best movies ever, I think. Let alone disaster movies. Independence Day is just a classic. Here's another newer one that's gonna make a lot of people mad, but it's one of my personal favorites. I think it is one of the most accurate representations of our society and how we would actually react to something like this. I'm talking about Don't Look Up. Yup. I'm talking about that film. It's one of my favorites. And I know, like, half my viewers just clicked off the video. I know I'm gonna see that in the analytics. Like, Don't Look Up, it's terrible. Listen, I am a big Adam McKay fan. I might be one of the only people on this planet that's a big Adam McKay fan. I enjoy the hell out of his movies. Something about them works for me. I think they're funny. I like on the nose, you know, not very subtle commentary on what they're trying to say. And that goes for this film. Don't Look Up is a fun-ass movie. A disaster movie about this asteroid that is coming to destroy the Earth. Everybody's going to die. And how everybody reacts to that. And how the majority of the planet is ignorant to the fact that they're all gonna die. And ignoring it. And this, to me, is the most accurate representation of our world. Maybe not with a meteor, maybe not even with something like Adam McKay was trying to say with climate change. But think about this. Think about like a nuclear war and what a nuclear war would mean for this planet. And I don't want to get too dark or too metaphorical and too into my, you know, my intellectual stuff that I think about outside of my YouTube channel, but how dangerous a nuclear war is, this apocalyptic event, and how ignorant our world is to that kind of event, and how ignorant a lot of our world leaders are to that kind of event, and how we egg each other on to potentially make that a reality, make a World War III a reality in which everybody dies. I see that every day. I see that in our world leaders. I see that in you and me and everybody, and how ignorant they are to that kind of apocalyptic event, and then I watch this movie, and I go, yeah, that is how we would probably all react to this. It's insane, but it's the most, I think, grounded in real film I have seen in years, ironically. I think it is hilarious. I think Leo is really, really fun in the movie. Jennifer Lawrence. The whole cast has so much fun in this film. I think it's funny. I've seen the film a bunch of times, and every single time, I enjoy watching it. It is just an enjoyable film that has a very on-the-nose commentary about what we would actually do in an apocalyptic situation and how ignorant humanity is. And I think it's right. You could disagree with me, but I think that's why it makes it one of the best disaster movies ever. The Mist, another Stephen King kind of a disaster-ish film. This is another kind of apocalyptic film in which this gigantic mist covers this town, and the mist contains a bunch of disgusting, gross monsters that are killing people. Some of the monsters are like giant spiders, these weird flying things. And listen, I haven't read the book. I've heard the book is better, but I've seen this movie a bunch of times, and I think it is an extremely well-done disaster film that really kind of blends into all of the great tropes that happen in these movies. You get a big cast of human characters, this large kind of community sort of story that happens with them. How do we survive together? They're all sort of stuck in this supermarket throughout the majority of the story, and they have to find ways to survive. Do we go out? Do we go try scavenging for stuff? What do we do? And seeing the characters kind of deal with this situation is what makes this movie so entertaining. It's what makes disaster movies so entertaining. Seeing them deal with the disaster. And a lot of people get very upset about the ending of this movie because it is so absurdly dark and I think just out there, and I give so much credit to the filmmakers for taking that risk with the ending, because wow, what a swing. But this is a movie that I just enjoy. I think it's one of the better films that are like this, one of the better Stephen King adaptations, I think, out there, and I really enjoy The Mist. 2012. Remember all you early 2000s kids, we were all told the world was going to end in 2012? Well, Hollywood was told that too. They were told the world was going to end in 2012, so what did they do? They made a movie about it, baby. I'm old enough to remember the absurd marketing for this movie, how they were marketing it, like, not that it was a movie, but this was, like, a glimpse into our future. Terrifying stuff. But this is a John Cusack-led disaster movie about the world just kind of ending on 2012. There's a bunch of these world natural disasters that are happening and people are dying, and we watch the characters survive. Classic a disaster film as you get with everything that happens, how it's filmed, how it looks, how it feels. You know what you're getting here. But it's still entertaining, it's thrilling. Woody Harrelson's a lot of fun in the few scenes that he's in this film. The disasters are creative, you get a bunch of different things, different visuals, a lot of CGI, but that's okay. This is a really good early 2010s disaster film that I feel like everybody's seen at this point. Godzilla -1. Now, I know what you're also going to say. This is not a disaster movie. It is a monster movie. And yes, it is. It is a monster movie. It ranked high on my list of best monster movies ever. And it is also a disaster movie because my definition of a disaster movie is something where people are facing some kind of natural disaster. And I look at this movie as Godzilla being this kind of not evil, not good force of nature that is causing a disaster for the humans. This is a movie about a group of humans that have to come together and learn to survive against greater odds. gods. That is essentially what this film's about. It's also about World War II and the effects and the PTSD and trauma, maintaining your honor as a soldier. There's so much going on in this movie, and it is just absolutely incredible. That's why I consider it a disaster movie, because you could take Godzilla out and put in some kind of other disaster trope, and the movie would still work the way that it does, because it is a brilliantly written movie, one of the best movies of last year, and a movie that everybody should go check out. It's on Netflix now, so go watch it. Armageddon. This is another movie very similar to Don't Look Up, in the sense that, remember when they said there's an asteroid heading towards Earth, we need to blow it up with nukes, and they try it and Don't Look Up, and they kind of just fail. Well, this movie, they don't fail. They go to take out the asteroid with nukes and with, you know, astronauts and all that jazz. Starring Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck and Steve Buscemi, this is essentially a movie about stopping Armageddon. You're blowing up an asteroid. You get a bunch of character drama. You have Earth that is just filled with tension and suspense. They're afraid that this asteroid's going to hit them and kill everybody. It is a great movie about family, about the dangers of asteroids in a way, and it's just a classic. I have seen Armageddon a billion times, and in my opinion is one of, if not Michael Bay's best film. I really enjoy this movie. I think when you think of disaster movies, it's like the first film that you usually think of, at least for me it is. It's a badass movie. It's a patriotic movie in a way. I just love Armageddon. Last but not least, one more movie, another film that you might get mad at me for calling a disaster film, but I mean, it's about a disaster. And it's easily the best one, I think. Titanic! I mean, yeah, Titanic was a disaster. It's a disaster movie of characters facing this terrible, terrible, terrible set of disasters that happen on the Titanic. Now, of course, it is also a James Cameron movie, meaning it is larger than any other disaster movie on this list. It is also a love story about Jack and Rose at the core of this movie. Jack, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, this kind of poor dude who finds his way onto Titanic and is just trying to enjoy life. You have Rose, who is this very, very wealthy person who is set to be married to a very rich businessman, and she kind of falls in love in this weird Romeo-Juliet type story on the Titanic, and then they have to work together to survive after the Titanic hits a giant iceberg. It's a movie that blends itself with the reality of the Titanic and the things that actually happen, as well as add some fiction to spice it up, both figuratively and literally. It's a dark movie, it's an emotional movie, it's a beautiful movie, it's one of the greatest movies in cinematic history. It just is on a practical level, and just how it has impacted Hollywood as a whole. It is one of James Cameron's masterpieces. It is the last movie that he made that didn't include gigantic 8-foot tall blue people, or 15-foot tall, or 10-foot how tall are the Na'vi? 10-foot tall Na'vi. There you go, I got it right. It's just easily the best film in this kind of genre, in my opinion. I don't think any of the other films I listed are anywhere near as good as Titanic, although they are all good in their own right. That's my list. Those are just some disaster movies, so go check them out. Let me know which ones I've missed. I'm sure there's like 5 or 10 that are so obvious that I just didn't list. I didn't even mention Twister, because I don't really love that movie as much as everybody else. I like the sequel, I like Twisters, but go check out my review for that. But yeah, let me know down below which ones I missed, which obvious ones I missed. Let me know which ones I was wrong about. Which movies did I list that are just horrible, just terrible movies that I should have never even mentioned? Tell me. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more notifications. I will see you guys tomorrow.